This is Epic Bonaire here with Anna to go back to Boston with our new solve called 3 Easy Steps to the Cask. This new Boston episode is the first in our new group of solves that go back to the basics and emphasize simplicity based on careful reading of the clues. No grandiose theories, no BS, no hints using sweeping internet searches that were not available in the 1980s. We focus on solving the hunts the way we think Bryon likely intended. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. In this episode, we build on the work of others and introduce some exciting new connections. Why bother with Boston? Well, because even though the cask was found there several years ago, there still isn't a clear solve. If we can understand the Boston solve, maybe we can learn something to help solve the remaining hunts. And we think you'll be surprised how this one works out. Let's get to it. The book contains references to Massachusetts and the Pilgrims who landed at Plymouth Rock about 40 miles south of Boston. The image has a couple 42s on it to indicate the latitude. These clues are enough to guess that Boston is a city. The verse reference to the Old North Church is a solid hint to the North End Boston. It's a pretty small area, mostly east of the freeway. The North End Boston is considered to have an Italian heritage, which ties to a hint to the Italian immigrants in the litany. The Italian connection is a bit confusing, considering that Boston was founded by English pilgrims, but we'll be using blue boxes to show key conclusions on each slide. The litany phrase is antique, olivine, and rich. Olivine is a type of rock, typically greenish. The olivine gemstone is the peridot, which is the jewel for this hunt. The litany phrase matches perfectly to the description of Boston in Wikipedia. The quote is, Boston is one of the oldest, richest, and most culturally important cities in the United States. Let's go to the North End and get started. Looking at the verse, we group the lines into 8 parts to get a better sense of it. Next, let's separate the 8 items into 3 categories: the initial question, things to look for, and actions. 5 steps line, the phrase in the area of his direction seems associated with the question, so let's move it over there. Let's start with the question. I'm guessing most people don't know these names off the top of their head, so and you'd have to do a little research. In 1980, you'd go to an encyclopedia. Today, you'd go to Wikipedia. And if you do that and do a little reading, it's pretty easy to see that or learn, if you're alert for geographic clues, that Thucydides is more associated with Athens and Xenophon is more associated with Sparta. Athens is north of Sparta, so the statement is true. Since the statement is true, then the direction is north, and the area of his direction is the north area. This confirms what we've learned from the prior hints. Go to the North End, Boston. What do we do in the North End? The first action clue is take 5 steps. But where? And what is a step? By separating the action clues from the less relevant look for clues, the path forward is easier to see. The first action clue is take 5 steps. The second action is to turn your back to the stairs. Steps and stairs can be similar, so let's switch these words. Now it's easier to see that we need to take 5 stairs or sets of stairs. Where? There's only one in the North End. It's at the Copp's Hill Terrace, south of Joseph Langdon Park. So that completes 2 of the 3 action steps in the solve. It's clear that we go down the stairs rather than up, so that when you face the water, your back is to the stairs. Take a break to address the Boston Public Library issue. It's close to, but not in, the North End, Boston. If you were working on the solve in the 1980s, it would have been easy to miss the names on the library. But that's actually a good thing, as the library is a potential rabbit hole. If you did find out about the library and you went there to view the names, and you viewed them as a map with north up, then T is north of X, and you could get the same result as consulting the encyclopedia. But if you evaluate the names in their relative positions, Xenophon is north of Thucydides, which is to the south, then you would get the wrong answer. Dang, now what? Well, either quit, try again, or worst, come up with an over-elaborate analysis of the issue with a 1 in 4 chance of stumbling on the right direction and a 3 in 4 chance of being wrong. Been there, done that. The most important thing, however, is to keep in mind that the library is not on the path to the cask. It's a question, not an action step. Jump to the conclusion that the library is the place to start, and you may just head west to Fenway Park and get even further off track. But that's only part of the story. The library is solidly woven into the themes of the hunt. But it's not clear if it was intended to be a clue or a red herring to get searchers off track. Consider these points. First, Boston has several nicknames: Beantown, City on a Hill, etc. One of the nicknames is Athens of America, hinting to the connection between Thucydides and Xenophon and Athens and Sparta, as noted earlier. Second, Boston is famous for its marathon, which harkens back to the ancient Greece and the legendary run of Philippides from the battlefield in Athens in August to deliver his message of victory. The legend ties to both Athens and the month of August. Third, the Boston Marathon ends at the Boston Public Library next to the wall containing these names. So, good hands or red herring? What do you think? Now, back on the correct path, at the bottom of the stairs facing the water, see the green tower of lights in the middle section of which is the middle baseball field in Joseph Langan Park. Note the clue is to a green tower of lights, not a tower of green lights. I was confused about that for a while. These are gone now, replaced when the park was reconstructed a few years back. The green in the Tower of Lights is a general tie to green peridot. Noted previously, the litany phrase is antique, olivine, and green. This may be a reference to baseball. Baseball is the oldest National League sport in the U.S., even predates the World Cup of Soccer. Baseball fields are green, and baseball has a rich history and is rich with statistics and stories. For a boy in the 1960s and 70s, before video games, talking baseball and citing stats was a favorite way to pass the time. So the litany phrase could be a hint to baseball. Now add the third action step, and bazinga, the cask could have been yours. Head to the middle field and feel or dig under home plate. That's it. We're done. Everything else in the verse and the image in the book is unnecessary extra detail. Well, let's go through it just to be complete. The next look for is near those who pass. The park is named for Joseph Langan, who was a state senator from Boston. He was also an undertaker who ran the family funeral home business, which still exists today on Commercial Street, just west of the park. Passing is a common word used instead of dying. Next is the phrase, the Coliseum with metal walls, referring to the metal-walled ice rink across the street from the funeral home. Gladioli flowers symbolize sympathy and are often chosen when sending flowers after someone passes. The final three look-for clues are, all the letters are here to see, referring to the signal flags on the USS Constitution, moored across the water to the north of the park, which is also the location of the famous Boston Tea Party. Next, 18th day, 12th hour, lit by lamplight, refers to Paul Revere's famous ride, and the signal lamps in the Old North Church, which we've already used at the beginning of the solve. The tip of the Old North Church can be seen from the middle ball field in the park. In truth, be free. Well, in truth, we haven't found a direct tie of this phrase to a tangible clue visible from the cast site. Finally, let's look at the image generally accepted to be associated with Boston. It's the flagship image, the largest painting, and on the book cover. If any image had some important symbolism or meaning, it should be this one. But what? Well, first, let's look with fresh eyes at the overall image. What do you see? We think the woman is Pandora, opening Pandora's box. In Greek mythology, Pandora was the first human woman and was endowed with gifts from each of the gods. Pandora literally means all gifted, or one who bears gifts, like Byron with the jewels. Athena, goddess of wisdom and logic, gave Pandora an embroidered silvery gown, like the woman on the image is wearing. Later, Pandora was given a box and told not to open it, but her insatiable curiosity drove her to do it, which released all manner of sickness and evils and plagues to the world. But left in the box was hope. We think this is a great image for the overall treasure hunt. We get to use our insatiable curiosity with wisdom and logic to find the jewels linked to the boxes and casks that are clearly modeled after the image of Pandora's box here. And we hope there are not evils and plagues inside. How does Pandora lead to the cask in Boston? The silvery dress hints to Athena and to Athens. The story of Pandora in the box was written by Hesiod, and his name's on the library, just a few columns north of Xenophon. Hope being in the box ties to Boston's other nickname, the City on the Hill, which we've read originally referred to Boston's three hills, Beacon, Bunker, and Blue, perhaps symbolized by the three blue orbs on the image. Regarding the background circle, John Palancar said Byron was really into the USS Constitution, aka Old Ironsides, and the circle represents the portholes on the ship. But looking closely, the USS Constitution doesn't have any round portholes. It has square gun ports and square windows in the back. Solid links to the cask location seem to be the foot striding towards home plate and the stylized images of the letter flags on the USS Constitution. There are 9 circles on the image, including the blue orbs, bubbles, the inner and outer porthole rings, and the moon and the star. Perhaps a hint to the 9 innings of a baseball game. The remaining details on the image seem to be related to places and things Byron likely photographed as he took a road trip around Boston. Many seem to be located west of the North End, perhaps because the North End is so small. Okay, before we wrap this up, let's have a little fun. In the book, there's a passage where the Celts are linked to leprechauns and to Boston by references to Massachusetts and the Puritanic pilgrims on the Mayflower. Starting with the good Celtic symbol, the 4-leaf clover, the clover hints to the Boston Celtics basketball team, which hints to their most famous player, Larry Bird, who hints to a bird in general, which hints to the bird on the image, which hints to the symbol of ancient Athens, the owl. Note the bubble next to the bird's head, hinting to the owl eye. Athens' nickname is the City on the Hill because the monument to Athena, the Acropolis, is actually on a hill with a long set of stairs leading up to it. The stairs hint to the Copp's Hill Terrace stairs that start the Boston hunt. Boston's also nicknamed the City on the Hill, referring to Beacon, Bunker, and Blue hills. Boston, Beaker, Bunker, Blue. Ponder all those B's while standing in the middle of Langone Park, and your thoughts might turn to baseball in a baseball field. Hopefully not to the nearby basketball courts or bocce ball courts. But in the baseball field, add the clue of a foot on home plate along with the verse line, feel at home, and get yourself to home plate and score a run and the cask. Well, let's look at it another way. The Celts hint to the Boston Celtics, which hints to basketball, or BB, which hints to baseball, which hints to the Boston Red Sox, whose logo looks like the fairy arms. This clue is clearly important as it connects directly to the jewel. The fairy is a flying girl, hinting to the 3 most famous flying girls, Tinkerbell and Wendy Darling of Peter Pan fame, and Dorothy Gale of The Wizard of Oz. The image likely is a mix of all 3. Tinkerbell hints to Wendy, and homesick Wendy just wants to go home. For Dorothy, the red socks on her arms make me think of red socks on her feet, or maybe ruby slippers. Dorothy just wants to go home too, and her memorable line is, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." So all roads lead to home and the cask. What did we learn? First, reorganizing the verse into action, look for, and other types of clues helped us see what was really important and make some important connections. Reading carefully helped avoid incorrect interpretations. Don't forget the litany and look through the book for additional clues. Be alert for red herrings. If things seem too obvious, they are probably bait to lead in the wrong direction. For the image, first focus on the big picture and recognize that most of the details on the image are probably unneeded clues to the general area. There are likely only a few things on the image that are really important to finding the cask. And thinking about this solve in comparison to the Chicago and Cleveland solves, well, they're all different, and every hunt probably has some unique challenges to overcome. Catch you next time.